This is the Moonlight Chronicles, a deep dive into the moments of glory and defeat with the players, the coaches, and the fans who experienced them.
Tonight on the Moonlight Chronicles, we are talking with the 1978 girls basketball team from Fort Dodge Saint Edmond High School. It's the only girls basketball team from Saint Ed's ever to make the state tournament. They did it in 1978 when there was only one class in girls basketball. So there was over 500 teams in the state, but only 16 of them made the state tournament at Veterans Memorial Auditorium in Des Moines, and it didn't matter if you had 10 girls in a class or 1,000 girls in a class. Just like the movie Hoosiers, only 16 made the state tournament. In the 1978 girls team from St. Ed's, not only did they make the state tournament as a Cinderella story, but they made the semifinals, and they actually got 4th place in the entire state out of over 500 teams. So all of the seniors from that team, almost all of the seniors, not quite all of them, but almost all of them will be joining us for the Moonlight Chronicles tonight. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to tell a lot of stories. So enjoy the 1978 girls basketball team from St. Edmond High School and Moonlight Chronicles.
Okay, I'm Debbie Nielsen Flattery, and I wore number 14 and 15, and I was a guard. Forward. I'm copying what Tim said, sorry. But I rode on the coattails of these other girls. I was a bench warmer and just happy to be on the team.
Thanks, Mom.
I'm Roxy Lighting Flattery, and I was in the guard court, and I was, at that time, we played 3-on-3, so I was like number 4 or 5 off the bench and a role player. But I would say most of all, I was a cheerleader from the bench. But loved to watch these guys play and loved to be part of the team.
I'm Bertie McGuire Nelson, and I was number 30 and 31, and I was also a guard in the guard court. And
a damn good one.
It was the most awesome team ever.
I'm Nancy Eide. I wore 32 white and 33 green of the most hideous uniform you could ever hope to see and try to get on your body. And I was a forward.
I'm Molly Poking Baker. I wore 54 and 55, and I was a guard and a bench warmer, and I loved being on the team.
And now you're a grandma.
And I'm a grandma, and I'm proud of that.
I'm Angie Johnson Doyle. I was in the guard court, and I wore 22, 23, and loved every minute of it. Fabulous, fabulous group of girls.
Thanks, Angie.
I'm Paula Meyer Harper. I was a forward. I think with Debbie, we were forward bench warmers, but we loved every minute of it. It was one of the funnest experiences of our lives, I think.
Cool. Thanks, Paula. What about you, Elmer?
Hi, I'm Beth. I wore number 40 and 41, and I was with 2 lovely girls on the guard court. Weren't we great, girls?
Yeah.
And we used our butts really well. Remember how they taught us?
Yep.
That butt
Block
back
out,
gave
block
you?
out.
Yeah, block out.
And now you can find Elmer all around the pickleball and tennis courts of
I
West
just
Des
got
Moines.
done, kid, with that too.
So Peggy, we are introducing everybody right now. You are last up. Peggy, you want to introduce yourself, the number that you wore and the position that you played?
All righty. I wore 44, 45. I don't know, 44, 43. 44 for sure because it was in the picture. Post player. Great time. Yep. That's it.
Thanks, Peggy. So, I mentioned this before we started recording, but you guys back in 1978 are the only St. Edmond girls team still to ever make a state tournament. They've gotten close back in 99, I think with Jennifer Perkins, they got really close. When Anna Young, like Kirk Young's daughter, when she was a senior, they got really close that year as well. But 1978 is the only time St. Edmond girls basketball has ever made the state tournament. What I think so fascinating about that is, and I didn't know this until I started reading up on all these old articles, is you guys didn't start playing organized basketball until like middle school because St. Edmond didn't have a team until you guys were in 8th grade. So what was that like or what was your childhood basketball experience like growing up?
Well, I grew up with 4 brothers. My neighbors had 12 kids. 9 of them were boys. And we had a basketball hoop, and we used to chip the ice off the driveway in the winter to make sure we could still play. There was a wire that went across the court, and if the ball hit it, there were certain rules because, every home court has quirks. And that's where I learned how to play, is in my backyard. And then we go up to Sacred Heart and play on those courts. And so I always figured if you played against guys who generally are stronger and can jump higher and that type of thing, if you can have success against the guys, you should have good success against girls. And that's kind of what happened for me.
We played at Sacred Heart, and I don't know, starting in 6th grade maybe. And we had 2 mothers of boys in our class who coached us. And one was Steve Ramirez's mom, and one was Matt Moyer's mom. And her name was Margie Moyer. And that woman could dribble a ball. And she taught us the fundamentals of handling the ball, passing the ball. I don't know where she ever picked it up. I don't know where she learned her skill, but that's where I learned mine. And Bertie and Paula and Nancy, and are there Sacred Molly? Are there Sacred Heart people? Peggy? The fundamentals
that team too, Angie.
Yeah, in 8th grade.
We were lucky to join in 8th grade.
Joined with those same coaches. Yeah.
Okay, but that's where I learned, was from the 2 mothers of 2 boys in our class who just volunteered to coach us.
Yeah.
And they had good, basic, fundamental skills.
Didn't we play with weren't the Barretts also? Was
Yeah.
that softball or was that basketball as well?
That's
Volleyball.
Yeah, and so we kind of had a round robin league that we played Corpus Christi, Sacred Heart,
right?
And Holy Rosary. And Holy Rosary always went 0 and 6. Corpus Christi always split 3 and 3, and Sacred Heart always won 6-0. So, but it started the competition among ourselves.
Now, this was 6-on-6. Maybe to remind the viewers at home, this was 6-on-6 basketball, which so many of the small schools in Iowa had been playing, since the early 20th century, really. Like my grandma Dar played for the Hayfield Hornets, way back in the day. But it's interesting that St. Edmond and maybe Fort Dodge High too didn't start playing the game until the late 70s, when so many of the small schools, and we see it throughout your tournament run, like Aurelia, Pocahontas, Vinton, Lakota, like all of those teams have been playing basketball for way longer than you guys. Was this a game that you grew up knowing the rules of 6-on-6, or did you have to learn the game as you were learning your skills?
I think
the first organized that I remember, Angie, was 5th grade. We started in 5th grade.
Okay.
And but I just learned it in the hood because that's just one of the things we did. And even though we didn't play the rules were not tough, Tim. I mean, it emphasized passing, which makes the game interesting. You didn't really have ball hogging because you couldn't dribble more than twice, and you had to be good at specific skills. And of course, it all went to the wayside when lawsuits came that said that girls weren't prepared to play college ball. And I always felt like it was a privilege to play sports and not a right. And so I never really liked what went down with that, but I think we, like Angie said, we learn the rules at the same time everybody does when they get into organized sports.
Well, and do you guys remember watching the state tournaments and just dreaming of going there?
Yeah.
And it was because we didn't have it, but I just remember watching it always, and I always remember Lakeview Auburn. My God, they were so good. Remember?
Yeah.
Every year.
We hero worshipped, that was for sure.
Yeah.
We always got to go down to a state tournament game every year.
Yes.
They always took us down there for it. Usually
So
there's some
that's
good
interesting.
prizes.
So those games must have been on statewide television. Like,
Right.
even though you guys didn't have a team at St. Ed's, you guys growing up were still looking up to those players that you'd see at the state tournament on TV?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's only 3 channels, so I mean, but we wanted to watch it, right?
I think it was on public TV, I think.
Yeah, that was for public television.
Yeah.
Oh, was it? Okay, so 4 TV shows. Yeah.
And it wasn't just the games, it was the whole pageantry of the tournament.
Yes.
You paraded out, they had these young men in tuxedos that would come out and sweep the floor in between games, and at halftime, they had people entertaining at halftime. I mean, it was quite a show.
I mean, Elmer got Bruce Jenner's autograph. What can I say?
Yeah. And I got to lick his fork too. What else can you say about that?
Hold on. What's that story? I want to hear this story.
No, you don't, Tim.
No. Is that when we got stuck in the elevator at the hotel?
No, it's when the maid let us sneak in his room, remember? And he had that hot tub and he had his room service there. And we walked up and I licked the fork and someone licked the plate. I thought it was maybe Birdie, but maybe I'm wrong.
We were in the elevator. We got stuck because we had so many people trying to get into his room. The elevator got overloaded.
He was so cute. When he was a guy. When he was a guy, he was gorgeous, okay?
Agreed.
So let's talk about that 1978 season. So you guys, you're coached by Keith Gedkin and Mike Penning are the coaches. And the 3 losses, like, you guys were destroying almost everybody, even though, this is only the 5th year of Saint Edmond basketball. You guys had a really great team. So obviously you had a lot of talent. But I'm looking at, like, your schedule throughout the course of the year, and you had 3 losses. One to Aurelia, which came early in the season. And it's funny, Aurelia is such a tiny town now. It's funny that they had a great girls basketball team. The second one was to Carroll Kemper, and that one was in double overtime. And then the third loss, and this is just in the regular season here, was to Fort Dodge High, and that was in, like, the postseason.
That was postseason, yeah.
Yeah. So what about those? What games, when you look back now, do, like, stick out in your memories outside of the state tournament games?
I think Cedar Valley was always a tough competition for us over by Summers.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
we always ended up beating them. In fact, I think they were our last game, not prior to state, but maybe to go to districts or whatever.
Yeah.
But
Webster City was tough, too.
Yeah, they were.
yeah, Webster City was tough.
Remember too much about the team itself, but when I was reading through this and it was talking about East Green and how we got beat the year before, and that was the first game of the season. We came out and we just decisively beat them. I think it was like we kind of set an attitude right at the beginning of that season that seems like, we were on a mission.
Yeah, you guys beat East Green by 24 to start the season. Then you guys beat Humboldt by 6 after that. And then you guys lost to Aurelia by 17 in the 3rd game of the year.
Yeah, that Aurelia thing was part of a Thanksgiving tournament. And I think we had won the tournament a year before. And I think we just probably were overconfident or something. I don't think we played well. I haven't looked up that game yet, but I think that maybe that was the peg we kind of needed to be knocked down back to earth and say, hey, this isn't going to come easy. You got to be in and play well every game, every week. And I think we were all shocked that we lost that. And it wasn't even close. So
Yeah, Nancy, that was a game you and I played absolutely horrible.
Yeah.
Neither one of us could make a shot if our life depended on it for one reason or another. And
Yeah.
it was a bad night. I think we sat a lot.
Yeah.
That evening.
Hey, better to lose in the beginning of the year than the end of the year.
Yeah.
I really think the team had an attitude, though, that nothing was, we were going. I felt that way.
I think when you have
felt like-
a senior laden team, you just have that confidence. But when you get to play with the same people for the better part of 3 years, I mean, I knew what Peggy was going to do before Peggy knew it, and I knew what Sue was going to do before she knew it, because it was a well-oiled machine.
It
That's what
was.
it was, and that's why it was so damn fun.
Yeah. And Nance, when I was reading some of those articles, you basically set the tone from what it said. You know, it wasn't a question of where we're going. You guys all knew we were going to do this at the beginning of the year, didn't you? And I was like, you know, you kind of set that tone.
Well, I've always been competitive, so there you go.
I thought our biggest rival was always Fort Dodge High with Rice. What was her name?
Right.
Yeah, but I think, didn't we only play them twice? We only played them twice, didn't we? Or
Yeah, once each year in districts.
Yeah, but I mean, as far as like a regular season rival, like
Oh, yeah.
Webster City, Humboldt, Cedar Valley, but Humboldt we beat 3 times senior year and we slaughtered them every time. But we hated Humboldt, so that was.
I hate Humboldt.
Yeah.
They were dirty. I mean, they were dirty. They would try to hide everything from the refs, and I mean, they were very physical. But even with that, they just didn't have the skill, you know.
I thought Algona Garrigan was a dirty team too when we played them.
I even forgot about that.
I didn't like playing them at all.
So one thing that's interesting about 6-on-6 is obviously it's 3-on-3 on both sides of the court. And so what that lends it to is like game planning, right? And the way you guys are talking about these teams that you've played over and over and over again, your Humboldts, your Webster Cities, your Cedar Valleys, you know, I'm sure you guys played these teams a lot, especially Nancy, you played 4 years. So at what point do you really start to get a good game plan and scouting report on these other teams, because you can really take away a lot in 3-on-3 as opposed to 5-on-5?
The thing about the 6-on-6 game, one of the, I think, more troubling features is if you had a big girl, like over 6 feet in the forward court,
Yeah.
I mean, that took you so far. And so there were a lot of boring teams that would just throw the ball into somebody 6'2", they turned around and made a 2-foot shot. That was Iowa basketball. I mean, you get these Iowa corn-fed beef women like the Mossbergers.
Yeah.
You're,
Oh, gosh.
you know, your tallest person is 5'10", and she's in the forward court. And I mean, that's why Wrightsma, she was a good player. I won't take anything away from her. But, you know, if you're 4 inches taller than everybody you play, that's just an advantage. And so a lot of those teams, if you read through those articles, like the leading scorer in the state was 6'1". The people on first team All-State were always 6 feet tall. I mean, you're going to have scoring records. You're going to have an easy time of it because you don't have 6'2" defenders. So that was a problem with 3-on-3 in my mind.
Well,
We
speaking of that,
struggled. We struggled with that. I mean,
well,
I
yeah,
was
because you want to have like your tall girl on offense probably, but most teams only probably have one tall girl. Like, you know, Peggy McCarville is the tallest girl on the team, and she's playing on the forward side. So then you got Beth and Angie and, you know, Birdie that are all smaller and quicker. So as defenders on the guard side, when you guys had to guard girls that are 6 foot or 6'1", 5 or 6 inches taller than you, how did you handle the size discrepancy?
we relied on Elmer.
These guys sag, right?
Well, I think you had to sag.
Keep them out of the lane.
You had to sag somebody in front and somebody behind, and then you had to help.
Yeah. There were times where we had Mona Mossberger, somebody big, right in the middle with all 3 of us surrounding them with our arms straight up, and we couldn't do a thing.
I mean, you have to deny the pass. That's all you can do. And if they're good passers, but Mossberger, Vinton had Marlena in the guard court and the other one in the front court.
The sisters.
So that was brutal. And I'm telling you, in the 4th game of the state tournament, you're so pooped. And you look at those trees on each end of the thing, like, screw it, man. I mean, that was tough.
I just think that was our weakness, but our advantage was that you guys had played together so much, because you knew you knew what everybody was going to do, what their roles were. And so.
And they were smart. They were smart. They were all smart.
Like Beth played smart.
Mhm.
She knew how to block, and
Yeah.
Birdie was right there, fronting people if she needed to. So was Ange. They were quick.
Birdie got a lot of rebounds because she was quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she knew where she was supposed to be.
Yeah.
And so she didn't need the height necessarily, because she would just want it more.
And she
She
blocked
would know
out
where
well,
to
too.
Blocked out.
where to be. And once she knew where to be, then it was just a matter of holding her ground. But she was quick too.
Yeah.
So we mentioned it earlier. The two regular season losses were to, let's see, who was it? Aurelia and then Kemper in double overtime. But then the other loss that happened before state was to the Dodgers. And so this postseason was really unique. Like a lot of things in 1970s 6-on-6 girls basketball, this postseason is really unique, where you have 3 sectional games, 3 district games, and then a regional game. So 7 games before the state tournament in the postseason, which this is whole new to me. I'm learning this new. So how is it that you guys lose to Fort Dodge in the second sectional game, 64-77, yet still move on after that and end up making the state tournament?
Because there was a loser's bracket. There was a loser's bracket that allowed you to play back in.
And Fort Dodge High got beat by another team.
Yeah, they got beat by Pocahontas, and we ended up coming back and
Beating Pocahontas. Yeah.
Yeah, you beat Pocahontas 75-61 in the third district game to move on to the regional against Lakota. And Lakota was, one of these teams that have been playing for 100 years. They were supposed to be really good. There's articles, there's like 15 articles in the Messenger about this game. And it took place at the Fort Dodge High gym in front of, a couple of thousand people. What do you guys remember about that game? Was there a lot of intensity and a lot of nervousness going into that game with Veterans Memorial Auditorium kind of sitting there, at the end of the rainbow?
I think if I remember right, the game was close the whole way. And so it was very intense because we were down to the wire and at the end and one ended up winning. But I think it was pretty tense the whole game.
I think I remember, if it's that game, Keith Gedkin, our coach, said something at halftime that he said, "Go get your dream, girls."
Mhm.
And that was probably the only thing that had to be said, because there was enough passion among everybody.
But Tim, what I had forgotten is we were a second half team. I totally forgot that. We could play like complete, not good, but we stormed back in the second half, and we won a lot of close games because we were so good in the second half.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, in 5-on-5 basketball, you have momentum because, you turn offense into defense and defense into offense. But it's different in 6-on-6 because the same people aren't playing offense and defense. So I'm curious as to how momentum worked when, you're only playing half of the court, right? And so as a defender or as a guard, when you see that the forwards are making shots and they're on a run, does that do anything to you as you're waiting for the ball to come back to your end? Or how's that momentum side of things work?
Oh yeah, I remember when we'd be behind and these guys would start scoring, and then we were getting pumped up, like, here we go, this is it.
Uh-huh.
And we could throw long. Angie had a beautiful Betty Greaser pass. Is that what we called it? Yeah, she could barrel that down into Peggy a lot. So it wasn't so dead moving because,
Well, you were standing on that half court line, and so it didn't feel like you were all the way down the other end of the court. You were, you were right by them because they were only a few feet away from you playing.
It was just another way that the pass was emphasized in this game. If you could do a breakaway and get a bomb pass, you'd have a layup. If you could, we could get in 2 dribbles from the half court to the basket.
Uh-huh.
What do you guys remember about winning that game? when you beat Lakota, do you remember that moment of, elation as you beat Lakota and think, man, I've been watching that girls state tournament on TV as a kid, and now we're going to be going there. Me and my friends are going to be going there.
Well, I think our parents and the crowd was so much a big part of that too, because they were so dedicated to us. And for them, you remember everybody just running out on the floor, and everybody was so excited for us, and
it
we
was
were so excited for each other, and probably the most awesome feeling that you'll ever feel.
Yeah. I think it was kind of a relief, because you have to play 7 games just to get to the tournament. And I just emailed a picture of my brother Matt cutting down the nets after that Lakota game.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
I don't know if we mentioned it. Did we say that we had a mantra since about 8th grade?
Understanding 78.
Yeah. So that kind of was something that all the way through kind of kept keeping people focused, I know.
Well, that and Dolly Parton.
And
Yeah.
Not about that.
I was hoping you'd bring her up, Nan.
Yep.
Yeah.
I
What
love
song?
her.
Bells.
And the green-
Remember
and the
our
green
bells on our
jumpsuit.
shoelaces?
Yeah.
Remember our
And the-
bells on our shoelaces?
Oh, I had forgotten
They
that.
complained and we had to take them
We have to
off.
take it off.
They said they disturbed their players.
Yeah.
Do you remember the green corduroy jumpsuits like we
Oh
all
my
had wear for the
God.
game?
Matching outfits.
And once you dried it, it was so short. I remember that.
Does anybody remember that Keith had a green suit that he wore with a vest?
A leisure suit.
There was an article.
Never washed them.
How about those white platform shoes?
Yeah.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
There you
yeah.
go.
yeah. Look at Tim. Look at Tim. They did an article on his
Yeah,
suit.
Gedkin's green DM suit.
Three-piece leisure suit. I forgot about that.
Who wants to bet $100 he still has that?
Where does
And
he
the
live?
shoes. And the shoes.
Yeah.
Okay, do you guys remember when he was guarding Nancy that one time? That's all I'm going to say. We all remember that, right?
You gotta give him credit for putting up with all of us.
Oh, I know it. But Mr. Penning was more in control, don't you think? I think Keith got too nervous during the big
Yeah.
game. And I
Yeah.
think Mike Penning kind of just took over and started telling him what to do.
Well, we had more of Mike Penning as the guard coach.
Yes.
I think he spent more time with us than Keith did.
Yeah, that's true.
And Dee,
And
making
yeah.
sure that we had on our appropriate undergarments.
Oh, yes. Remember that?
I'm starting to feel uncomfortable. This is
Okay.
so was there any bad blood with Fort Dodge? Because Fort Dodge had beat you guys, but you guys are the ones that go to state. Did those girls on the Fort Dodge team, was there ever a rivalry there because you guys go to state and get all the attention and they didn't?
No, in fact, Sue Reisman lived down the street from me, and the day after we went, Nancy and I took her flowers. Do you remember that, Nancy? You don't.
I remember doing something. I don't. Yeah.
The year before, I think they went to state, and we all took over a flower and like a good wish to them the year before.
Yes.
They did not reciprocate when we went.
No, they didn't.
No.
Ooh.
They did a few of their players, if they knew players on our team personally, they did. Like Cheryl Christopher brought me something. I remember that, but their team did not as a whole.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't think that. I think we just hated Fort Dodge High as an institution, and we didn't really, not the individuals, because once you get to know people, that's the whole thing. I remember Mary Jo Jorgensen was pretty friendly with all of us, and I want to beat them worse than anything. I wouldn't take back the state tournament experience just to have beaten them, but yeah, it's kind of a sore spot. But we had a big lead and we blew it, and I think it was because we maybe didn't believe we could beat them.
Mhm.
But Wrexham was a force, man. I mean,
Yeah. I wrote down she had 1,001 points that season and 2,789 points total for her career.
Wow.
I just remember that game.
You had to respect them. You had to respect
Yeah,
them.
she was good. And they had that little good shooter, so we really couldn't sag too much on her. I can't remember who it was. She was a cute little girl.
I just remember that game, and you talk about the crowds getting involved, and it got kind of ugly at times. I mean, people threw stuff out on the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They're
it did.
playing over there at senior high, and
You
I
guys
don't know.
remember when we played them and Photo Freddy, who
Fred
was-
Larson.
Yeah.
Fred Larson, he called someone. He was pointing to the refs like one of us was on the line. You remember that? And we were all like, because he was photographing the game.
yeah.
So he was definitely for Fort Dodge High, and they were stacked against St. Ed's, right?
They threw stuff on the floor at
Yeah.
halftime and at people, and
But you know, for years,
they had an impact.
they banned competition. When my oldest brothers were at St. Ed's and they used to play in basketball every year at Fort Dodge High, it got so bad with stuff being thrown on the floor like fish and hot dogs and
Yeah.
that they banned, they said, well, you know, unless you meet in the postseason, we're not going to schedule, because it just got out of hand. And that was even in the, you know, my one brother graduated in 70 and my next one in 72. So the bad blood had been there long before we ever,
Right.
you know, took the hard court. So, you know, you got to have these rivals. I mean, it is what it is. We never beat them. That stinks. But, you know, we did go further than that team ever did in the state tournament. So I guess that's the best revenge.
Well, and I think them going to the state tournament made us even more determined that we were going to go to the state tournament, because they'd gone the 2 years before.
Right.
Well, let's talk about that state tournament. So you guys go and you're kind of the underdogs there. You have a record of 23-3 coming into the state tournament, and you get matched up with Mediapolis in the first round. And Mediapolis coming in had a lot better tradition. You know, they've been to the state tournament before. They're one of these smaller towns that have been playing for a long time, and they're undefeated. They're 27-0 coming into that game. And so you guys are definitely the underdogs going into that game. What do you remember about, you know, the first time stepping foot at Vets? Because I remember when I played there in 2004, it's a whole different spectacle, right? The hoops are out in the middle of nowhere. There's fans that feel like they're right on top of the court. It feels like you don't have enough time to warm up because you're kind of drinking in the surroundings the whole time, even before the game. And when I've seen the videos of the girls' state tournament, it seems like almost ×2 of what I've experienced, because Nancy, you mentioned it earlier, there might be 14,000 people there for that game. So what do you guys remember about Vets?
It was quite cavernous, and I think I was thrown off at first because the baskets didn't have a wall behind them. And so your perspective is different. You can't judge it the same way. I think it took a little while to get that figured out. I don't remember if they let us practice there. Maybe
I think we practiced at Dowling.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I think that, and heck yeah, it was nerve-wracking for sure. I mean, we'd never been there. We were playing a team that had been there 15 out of the last 17 years. They were undefeated. If you knew anything about girls basketball in Iowa, you knew Mediapolis was a perennial power. And everybody was already penciling them into the next round. And, yeah, so we were the Cinderella team. You know, I think I do remember, the only thing I really remember about that game, like I didn't remember till I read the article today that, you know, they had a lead, we had a lead, da-da-da. But what I remember personally is in the last seconds we were stalling. You know, there was no 30-second clock, so you could keep the ball as long as you could keep it. And I remember seeing that there was nothing between me and the basket. And I just said, I'm going to go for that layup right now, you know. And I remember shooting that layup, and I was all by myself, and seeing the crowd and the flash bulbs and stuff in the background. And it was kind of like rubbing it in, like, we're going to beat you by 10. And I remember that like it was yesterday.
Yeah, you guys really became kind of the Cinderellas after that game, because that was a huge upset to beat Mediapolis. and all of a sudden you guys are in the Elite Eight, right? And there's only 8 teams left in the entire state. There's only one class here. Over 500 teams, only one class. You guys are in the Final 8. You have, you're going up against Ankeny after that, which is like 40 years in hindsight, it just seems insane. Like for Saint Edmond to play Ankeny today is just like, it's laughable almost.
No,
And so
that
there's
wasn't the next game, Tim. We
Preston.
played another game before Ankeny.
Oh, do I have that wrong?
Preston.
We
Yeah,
We
played-
played another game.
Kristen.
We got to the
Preston, a double overtime.
Yes, you're right.
It was
Creston
triple.
was that second game,
it
73 to
double?
68.
I
Yeah,
thought it
won
was
the second
We
game.
gotta get to the semis, Tim.
Well,
That was the game. That was the game that the priest had the heart attack.
Yeah.
Monsignor Bauer.
Yeah, yeah, we
I-
felt so bad.
Yeah.
He was 58 years old, and it was at the end of regulation before we went into overtime, and he
Is
was
that
sitting
how
with,
old he was?
Died.
he was sitting
He
with
died.
We thought he was old
Yeah.
then, remember?
Yes.
Didn't he bring,
I
didn't he
have
bring
that.
us the, didn't he bring us the Fort Dodge Messenger every morning?
Every morning,
From home?
every morning he brought us
Yeah.
the paper. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
'Cause
he
we were
was
staying
sitting,
in Des Moines.
yeah, he was sitting with Ewayne Cooley and all these other administrators and stuff, and literally had a heart attack, and they had to take him away at the end of regulation, and he didn't make it.
Yeah, I remember
And,
that.
you know, one of my memories post was going to that funeral and never seeing so many priests in my life. At
Yeah.
the funeral,
Oh,
remember going
right.
to the funeral?
Yes.
We went as a team.
Mm-hmm.
There
I
was a
think
lot of priests there.
Being a bench warmer in that game, though, I remember that is the first time when I felt, I think I had said so many Hail Marys in that game, and I literally could feel my heartbeat in my throat because we were just doing everything possible to win. And that was kind of so, Mediapolis was so far beyond, but then to win the next one was like totally just us going above and beyond whatever we thought we could
Hey,
do.
you guys wasn't part of it because we were going to be on TV then, because the Final Four got to be on TV.
Yeah, that was it.
My mom said she left the arena. She was so nervous because I had to shoot free throws, and she didn't really want to, you know. I guess that was after poor Monsignor passed, but it's nerve wracking when you have that many. Yeah, there's so much on the line, Tim. It's never going to be. Nothing else in the last 40 years has been that tense for me, anyway.
Mhm.
yeah, I remember, Nancy, well, in the semifinal game my senior year, I had 2 free throws with a minute left in the game. And I remember my knees shaking at the line. And it was like, you know, your whole life kind of comes to this moment right now. And sometimes as an athlete, you realize it. Like, man, all of the times chipping off the ice in my driveway, all that leads to this moment. And you're not necessarily nervous, but your body can sense the moment. And I remember just shaking. And so I feel you when you say that, like with your mom having to leave and being at the free throw line. As an athlete, you want to be in that situation. But sometimes as like a fan or as a kid, you're realizing like, holy smokes, this is the moment I've been dreaming about. It's all right here in the present instead of the future.
And the other thing, Tim, is if you do succeed in that minute, you know, it just gives you a lot of confidence in life. And, you know, you're like, hey, I met this challenge head on and I won, you know. There's so many positives that come from sports. It gets real cliche, but, I think for me it was a great launching pad for life because it was something that I gave a lot of time and effort to, and I had good results.
I think you also passed that on to your kids, that you can get to that point and you can get through it and you can win it.
Roxy, is this you taking credit for Patrick's state championships?
No, it's not, but it's not very often that I think both moms and dads kind of can say you're at that moment. But I mean, I remember their state tournament, just looking at them and going, you can do this, you know, and just that reassuring look of knowing from the past that you watched other people do it and you know it can be done.
Yeah, and so after that Creston games, you guys beat Mediapolis, you beat Creston, And there are just so many articles, both in the Messenger and the Des Moines Register, that are talking about the Gaelettes. And you guys are the toast of the tournament at this point. What was it like to kind of, all of a sudden you have media exposure? Like, it's funny to think about, but this was a big deal. 6-on-6 was Iowa basketball, and you guys were the toast of the town for kind of that stretch there in the Minneapolis to Creston leading up to that Ankeny game. What was that time period like?
It was fun.
Yeah. I remember just, you know, we had a lot of social things going on too during this tournament. And so, you know, you're all excited and, you know, you're sleeping in a hotel, which I still don't sleep very good in hotels, but I think what happened, I mean, we knew Ankeny was fantastic. We had gone to camp. We knew them personally. We knew their coach. You know, I still have nightmares about Tina Bertogli's arms. They were.
I forgot that name.
I mean, she was just. I mean, she was captain of the all-tournament team, which normally guards don't get that accolade, but she deserved it.
Yeah.
But I'll never forget her face because I had to look at it so many times for so long. And but I was physically and emotionally drained after those first two games. So you play them in a row. You have all this hoopla. You know, it's tense. You know, I just felt, I mean, by that time that fourth game came along, I mean, I personally kind of just felt sluggish. I just felt like, I don't know how you prepare for those 4 games, but, you know, having not been there before, we probably should have done something differently. I don't know what, but I just remember that a lot about just how damn tired I was.
What span of time did those games take place in? Because you had Minneapolis, Creston, and then Ankeny and Vinton. So what span of time are we talking
I
about?
think it was Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, wasn't it? Because we
didn't have a break.
started on Tuesday, we played on Wednesday.
Right.
Peggy, do you remember?
I thought we started the games on Tuesday, but I could be wrong.
The games did start on Tuesday, but I think only half of them played Tuesday, and I think we played Wednesday. But I don't know. I just read it.
The bracket.
What about
I
those
just don't
uniforms?
remember having a day off, you guys. We were always going to skate.
Yeah.
The uniforms were horrible.
We had all that social stuff. We had that big breakfast.
Yeah.
And Angie was our queen for our team.
Oh,
I
yeah.
want to mention at the breakfast.
Yeah.
Angie was our queen, and Beth was captain of, or on the all tournament team.
Right.
Beth Elmer was on the all tournament team.
She's still in some of the, after the games get over now for the girls tournament, Elmer's still on there. Sometimes they show her.
That's what I was going to say, is that even for years and years, anytime we watched the state tournament, which was like a regular
Watch it every year.
would be on the highlight reel, and it was the Saint Edmonds players all playing for the highlight reel, so you could always see everybody playing again. It was fun.
Girls, this was the schedule of our games. We played Minneapolis at 2:30 in the afternoon on Wednesday. The next night on Thursday at 7, we played Creston. And I remember that game went really late because of the overtime.
Yeah.
And then the next night at 8:30, we played Ankeny. That would have been on TV.
Yep.
And then we had to play the next night in the consolation at 7.
Wow.
Yeah, I thought it was every day.
It was every day. No wonder you guys were tired,
And the same starters.
because it wouldn't have done any good to put us in.
Debbie.
It really was.
She's speaking truth.
Not against Tina Bertogli.
Oh,
I just remember those Yori sisters.
Oh, yes. You know, she's a good coach at Nebraska now.
I know. They went to Creighton.
Yes.
Hey, I
What about
remember
those
reading
uniforms?
in these clippings too, Miss Paula Meyer over there making some shots for us when we needed them too. So Paula, what do you remember about scoring points at the state tournament?
Honestly, did I? I think I maybe scored 1 basket. I could always shoot those side baskets. I think sometimes they threw me in to shoot that side basket to pull the pressure off of Peggy and everybody inside.
Yeah, Paula had a good outside shot.
Mm-hmm.
Very good shooter.
When you look back on those 6-on-6 teams, I think the thing that's striking to me is there's a lot of good shooting. Like, girls could put the ball in the basket. You know, a lot of times you go to a St. Ed's girl or a game now, and the score might be like 36-32, and you guys are playing games in the 70s and 80s and making like tons of shots. That is kind of a refreshing thing as you look back on this, because some of those games are on YouTube and you can watch them.
Well, we didn't have 3-point shot either, so we were making all twos to get those points.
Right.
Well, you had Peggy underneath, you had Nancy outside with her jump shot, and then Sue could hit him from outside.
Yeah. And
So-
that season, Nancy and Peg were tied for 46 for high, and then Nancy, I think, beat it and had 47 points in one game.
Yeah. They could all shoot, and so if somebody had a bad game, somebody else would pick up the pace for it and hit the shots that we needed to hit.
Yeah, I think our front court was so complimentary. I mean, the three of us each had our own skill set, but they complemented, you know. And that, again, it's fun to play when you know where the people are going to be. When you know them that well, it's just, it cannot be more fun.
So I've brought this up a couple of times, but I do want to talk about it because when I look at some of these old articles, the uniforms are just absurd to me. And I want to know, like, was this the style? What did you guys think of these uniforms?
We hated them.
Yeah.
No, we never liked them. Yeah.
They were really, really tight. They didn't
very
line up very well.
They were an unbreathable polyester.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you had to, after you washed them, you had to put the pants on the back of your dining room chairs, stretching them, so that you could actually get them over your hips. And I'm sure even Marge had to do that. And she had no hips. So
Yeah, no
anyway,
hit. No.
and they were ugly, and they said Gaelettes, which everything had an et in 1978.
Yeah. Yep. It's the Wildcatettes.
Yeah.
The Bullets.
Bullets. That was
Yes.
good to see that change.
Well,
Yeah.
the other thing that's funny when you read these articles is the messenger just calls Beth Elmer. They don't even say in some of the articles Beth Elmer Strang, or they just say Elmer.
Goes by her nickname is Elmer.
Yeah, I mean, it was just like,
It's
there's
because
one
he was
article
my
where they
neighbor.
don't
Photo
even.
Freddy was my neighbor. He never cared for me. Okay.
Elmer,
He
where'd you
started
get that
to date-
nickname?
His daughter started dating Nancy's brother. Remember that?
Yeah, that's right.
Let's see, they want to know where you got the name. I mean, Elmer, where you got
Oh, because we had three Beths, and we had Beth Millay, Beth Brock, and Beth Strang. And so I went by Elmer because of my dad. And then what do we call? No, I just had to be Beth, and the other two got to be Beth still. I had to go by Elmer. We called Debbie Carmen we call her Hans for summer or something, right?
Yeah.
It didn't
I'm
stick.
sure I was probably called
Elmer's
Paul.
the only one that stuck.
Yeah.
forever, for 40 years.
Because it's a pretty bad name, right? Yeah.
But part of the reason was, like Beth said, we did have 3 Beths in our class. And Nancy and I brought this up the other night, that we had some girls that we lost that, you know, we would have even had more seniors on the team, with Beth Millay, who was a fantastic player. And she died after our sophomore year of basketball, remember?
Yeah.
And then Cindy Drzymski too was a guard.
Yeah, we would have had
lost
even more.
2
We
girls on
would
our
have had
team.
more depth than, you know, we had. Yeah, we would have had a lot of depth with those two.
Beth was a scrapper.
Yeah, and Cindy had an attitude, so she didn't like getting beat, you know.
Yeah. Yes, she didn't.
Nancy, you brought it up earlier with Paula scoring at Vets, and this is my mom's time to shine here because my mom went to the free throw line, and Jim Zabel actually made fun of her free throw shooting. So, Debbie, what do you remember about hitting the free throw lineup at Vets in the state tournament?
When you mentioned your knees were shaking, my knees were shaking. I remember being very nervous. I think I would have rather just stayed on the bench and cheer for these guys.
You know,
I really didn't want to be out there.
I totally forgot about Debbie putting that left leg like way behind her.
Right, and
So
pushed
as the leg went back, the arm went up.
Yeah.
And she got down like her knees were great shape because she could practically hit the hard court with her knee. That was how big her stretch or her bend was. Yeah, I had totally forgotten about that.
Yeah. When you mentioned Jim Zabel, Frosty Mitchell is still alive today, and he was the big MC too at all these things.
Oh yeah.
Remember that name?
Oh, she must be about 100 now.
Yeah, Dan said he's still alive, so I don't know.
I used to do impressions of him.
Oh,
You did?
Do it now,
Do it.
Nancy. You still
Do
can
it.
do it.
Do it.
And I've totally forgotten about it. I can't do it. I haven't practiced.
You ladies all 60?
Who's the
Yeah.
guy that said we were
No,
going to get?
Debbie. Debbie's going to be 60 tomorrow.
No, July.
July.
Oh, July, right, July.
You're
Sorry,
close.
Deb.
We're
Sorry, Barb.
27th though, Paula and Nancy and I.
Yeah, we're all 27s.
27th of the month.
Well, ladies, before we wrap it up here, as we did it on the introductions and we just kind of went around the room, I kind of want to do the same thing here. And what the question that I'd like for all of you to answer is, you know, when you look back on your experience as a Gaelette in 1978 and this great team that you were on, what do you miss the most about playing basketball? But there's one catch with answering that question. You can't say the teammates. All right, it's obvious. I think what all of us that have played sports, what we miss the most about sports is the camaraderie and the teammates, and that's why it's been so fun to bring this group back together. But outside of that, what do you miss most about playing hoops for the Gaels? Debbie, why don't you kick us off?
Being young again.
No.
Well, I would say, I don't know if I miss it so much, but I will say the memories have lasted a lifetime. And growing up in small town Fort Dodge, and really we went to a small school in comparison, just those memories of getting together with friends. I know I'm not supposed to say this, but really for a common goal, which was on to state in 78. And we were all very competitive and motivated people. And it was fun to be with other girls that were like that, you know, so I enjoyed that and being able to improve our skills once we started playing with the Sacred Heart girls, because they were a lot better than us. And I feel like that made us all better. And just to be able to be with girls that had the same kind of goals as you and that were really motivated to accomplish something, I guess that would be what I miss.
And we had fun too.
And we had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So much fun.
And we had a lot of community support. When you look back at it being the late 70s and the gyms were packed and everybody, when you think about us being a girls team, it was really cool.
Yeah.
And the
What do you mean
support
by
of our
that,
parents.
Paula?
And the support of our parents. Remember how excited our parents all got?
Oh yeah.
Oh
I
man,
think they were more excited than us, you guys.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Definitely more excited.
Yeah,
Well,
crazy.
That was their life, following us around to our basketball games. And then they all became friends because
Yeah.
they spent so much time together. So
I think it's kind of cool too that you're in a situation where you're learning from each other and it's competitive and you're all competitive people, but at the same time, it's positive. You know, I mean, people sometimes today, the competition can, you know, people get on each other and everything. We were always supporting each other for the most part, you know, and it was a positive experience to compete.
Well,
Except
think
when the
people-
Dodger fans threw fish on the floor.
Except when the Dodger fans do fish. That's right.
Well, what people forget too is we were 3 different schools. We weren't one school like it is now, like Deb said, and everybody got together and we all became friends from the 3 schools and got to be a group. You know,
Yeah.
it was neat meeting the new people.
Yeah, at first we were,
Corpus Trustees and the Holy Terrors.
at first we wanted to beat the crap out of you guys.
We never did though, did we? No.
No, I don't think so.
You guys are forgetting one big segment.
What?
The
Keith?
kids that never went to Corpus Christi, Sacred Heart, and Holy Rosary. Yeah. The
Dan,
Vincent people.
Dan will leave. Goodbye.
Only hicks are from Vincent.
Sorry, that was an interruption. Cut that part out, Tim.
Birdie, what about you? What's your lasting memory from that team?
I think just the whole excitement. I mean, I feel like our whole 4 years, even though, you know, some of us didn't play the first year, start playing the first year, just the whole excitement of the 4 years. I don't know, we always had such a close group in and outside the sport, and I don't know, it was just always such an exciting time for us.
Yeah.
Yep.
How about you, Nancy?
Oh, you know, sometimes, Tim, when I think back, it seems so long ago that I wonder if I actually lived it. You know, it's almost like it's someone else's, but since I've been immersed in it for a while today, of course I second everything that's been said about it. But I think just personally, just the effort and the practice and wearing the treads off basketballs and loving something and having the privilege to be able to execute it well and have that. I think like I said before, it was a great springboard because it gives you self-confidence and, you know, just the kind of the personal payoff of doing something you love, doing it well, being recognized for it, and then life went on. You know, I don't feel like I was stuck in that period. It was great while it lasted, and then new things happened after that.
Well said.
Peggy, what do you remember?
My memory is standing on the free throw line for the national anthem before those last 2 games, and 15,000 people, and butterflies in your stomach until you touch that ball for the first time, and then they go away and play the game. Yeah, it was a good time. Good time. I'd say that's it.
Yeah, it's funny that you know, if you watch these videos, when you guys were playing at the state tournament, I think it really captured maybe kind of the high point of Saint Edmond girls basketball, or Iowa girls basketball, was from like the Denise Long era in like 1969 through maybe the early 80s. So you guys experienced really, I think, probably the best point to play girls basketball, because after Denise Long in like, I think it was 1969, so much national interest came on that game after that point, and the state tournament was really this huge thing while you guys were experiencing it. And it's fun to see the fanfare, the pageantry of that time, but it's also fun that you guys were a part of it, and St. Ed's was a part of that, because they haven't been a part of that since. And so for St. Ed's to make one trip to the state tournament and for it to be kind of at the height of girls basketball in the state, I think it's pretty special. And I think it's pretty cool that we're able to get all of you guys from the class of 78 together tonight to share some of those memories. So thank you so much for joining us and doing this together. I know we went a little bit long, but this has been a lot of fun.
Hey, Tim, thanks for
doing it, Tim.
worthy of your podcast. We appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks, Tim.
Well, yeah, you guys
Thanks,
are
Debbie,
more
for
than
putting
worthy.
this together.
And Nancy, I think it's a crime actually that when they talk about the all-time leading scorers at Saint Edmond for girls basketball, that you're not on the list. Like you scored 2,300, 2,400 points or something like that, but they don't count the 6-on-6 records on anything. And I think it's kind of a travesty. Same with, Peggy and with Beth being on the all tournament team. I think that's part of why I wanted to do this to make sure that that your team in particular and those 6-on-6 teams throughout the years don't get forgotten about, because you guys were awesome.
The Messenger did do a retrospect on, and they broke it all down, and they looked at Fort Dodge, both the Dodgers and us, and they did all the stats for 6-on-6, and said that basically, of course, once the era ends, no one can top it, right?
Right.
So Sue writes them up from Fort Dodge, me from St. Ed's. We'll always be the leading scorers, because for all the years that followed for 6-on-6, nobody outdid us. So I think we do have those records. And what always chafes me a little bit, Tim, is when Sharing the Spirit comes out and says, oh, so-and-so is now the leading scorer in salmon history. And it's always a guy, only guess what? No guy has scored more than I did. And so that's just false, And one year I pointed it out to Miklo. I said, hey, I don't want to come off as conceited, but if you want to say he's the leading scorer in boys basketball, go for it. But he is not the leading scorer in St. Ed's basketball. And so that's my 5 cents. But I think
at one time, and maybe it's still true, I haven't been out there and looked, we had the largest trophy in the trophy case.
It's still there, yeah. Still
Of
there.
any trophy of any sport, was that 4th place trophy. I think we had the largest trophy out there.
Well, and in 6-on-6 with Sue and Peggy, our team had 3 of the top 6-on-6 St. Ed's point scorers.
Yeah.
Okay, so all 3 of our forward court are in the top 6 for 6-on-6 points in a career, basically.
Well, not only that, you guys are the only team to ever do it in one class. So, the other state tournament appearances, the other basketball appearances, that's when we're in 2A or 1A or, these things. And you guys did it in one big class. So when you talk about St. Edmond teams that maybe are the biggest underdog stories or maybe the best stories to tell, let's not forget about the 78 girls team, because you guys deserve the recognition. And so that's why I wanted to do this. Because like I said, because 6-on-6 does not exist anymore, so many of those records are just, they might be a footnote somewhere in a trophy case, but when they come up in the Sharing the Spirit or the Fort Dodge Messenger, I think it's oftentimes overlooked. And so we wanted to make sure when we're doing this that we're not overlooking the Onta State in 78, led by Keith Gedkin in that awful green suit.
Thank you, Tim.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for joining us, ladies.
Thank
This
you
will be
so
fun.
much.
I'll give you all a heads up when this goes up on the internet.
Okay.
You guys be famous.
Oh, yeah, that's all we want.
Nice to see all you guys.
Tim, are you gonna edit this, Tim? Or are you gonna edit it, or are you gonna let it fly?
I don't know.
Okay, I hope he edits it.
I'm gonna clean it up. I'm gonna clean it up a little bit.
We were good, weren't we?
I think
you guys were great.
Oh yeah. Oh, I know what we did, you guys. We talked. Okay, yeah, about Nancy or Keith guarding Nancy. Yeah. Tim, you should get online and ask, does anyone know what happened here?
I know one thing I'm not going to cut out is the Bruce Jenner.
Don't do that. Okay, cut out the licking his fork part though. Okay.
And the deep panty part.
Oh yeah, and remember, I'll have 1 piece of pizza for Beth Strang, please.
You know, one serious thing though that I'd like to add, I guess, is I played on a lot of teams, the volleyball team, the softball team at Dowling or at St. Ed's. Went on and played in college, and went to nationals in college with a great team. Had a lot of fun, not in basketball, but anyway, it was the team chemistry really that was different and special about this team. I mean, like Nancy said, you know, you knew where people were going to be, but it went beyond knowing that. It was just, it was a special chemistry.
Yeah, I think we all liked each other. You know, we all wanted everyone to do well. We all liked each other. We were all friends. And
which is unusual for a girls' team.
Yeah, well, and chemistry is so big in every sport. I mean, it's the intangible.
Yeah.
And we were glad when, and on a side note, we were glad when we found out that Peggy McCarville was coming to St. Ed's.
Oh, yeah.
Peggy didn't come until her freshman year.
Yeah.
So
I remember
we moved back to the guard court.
I remember meeting Peggy at the Sacred Heart Playground so that we could play ball together and we could get to know each other. I remember that.
Yeah, Father Murray and you. I don't know who else was there.
Father Hoffman, probably.
Yeah.
Oh, was it Father Hoffman?
Yeah.
Father Hoffman and you and somebody. Yeah, because it was pretty scary. Wasn't
You always say there's
Oh,
my
it would
top
have been
list?
scary. Yeah.
Tim, you always say there's an X factor, and that's probably what it was, is that we kind of didn't even just like each other. We kind of loved each other. I mean, really, we did.
And by the time senior year came around, we'd lost two classmates before the tournament and then one after. And the two, of course, were the females that played basketball and were a big part of our group. And you don't take people for granted when you have those situations. You know, you have a drunk driver and you have cancer. And, you know, what things are going to bring you together or tear you apart, and it brought us together.
Yeah.
Well said.
Yeah.
Lots of great memories, and thanks for sharing them with me tonight. I only hear the Debbie Nielsen ones and how, the Debbie Nielsen Glory Days stories. So it's fun to get the other side of it from you all tonight. I've been hearing about those 2 free throws at the state tournament for 34 years.
Tim, can I mention that if you guys have never pulled it up on YouTube, I think the only game that we can see like in full is maybe the quarterfinal. Is that right, Debbie? That we see that?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it's maybe the quarterfinal, but there actually is one on YouTube. You just got to kind of figure out which one it is. I can't remember which one it is, but
I have the radio recordings because I think my grandparents taped the radio, so I still have those tapes.
Yeah.
And I might have a couple VCR tapes.
Yeah, I think things have all those old, Sue's parents have all those old tapes.
If I figure out which one it is, I'll tell Tim or Debbie, we can send it out, but I know it's on there.
If you ever watch that, the famous girls basketball game is that Denise Long game where they're playing like the cattle milkers or whatever. And that game, I looked it up, and that game is one of the most viewed sporting events in the state of Iowa's history. It might be the most viewed because it was broadcast in like 12 different states, and just under like 7 million people watched that game.
Didn't Denise Long score 100 points?
She scored like 100 and something. She was drafted in the NBA. She's one of 2 women to get drafted into the NBA.
She played for Union Mount Witten.
That's right.
Yes.
How tall was she? Do you guys remember?
It was 1969. And Deb
She was like
Coates, do you
6
guys
foot.
remember that name?
Okay.
Yeah, she was like 6 foot. That was another one.
She's coming up on the podcast on Tuesday.
Deb Coates?
Teaser. Denise Long.
Oh, Denise Long.
Denise Long.
Oh, that's great.
She's
Yeah,
a chip
send
off
us
the
the
old
link.
block.
Link us up to that one, too.
Yeah. All right, ladies. Well, thank you so much. It's been fun.
Thanks,
Yeah,
everyone.
nice meeting you.
Thanks.
Bye,
Good to see
everybody.
everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Thank
See you guys.
you.
Bye.